guys, welcome to the Macros Bodybuilding and Powerlifting Podcast, Revive to Stage with me, Pascal, and the man who thought that during his contest prep he wants to throw in a gaining phase, and Steve Hall. Hey Steve,
Hey
how are you
guys.
doing?
Yeah, it's good to be on here talking to Pascal. We haven't had a proper chat for a while, and
Oh yeah.
apologies to all the viewers that this is a day late. Not that I think anyone holds on to this as if it's like an episode of EastEnders and someone's going to die or something. But hopefully we have some loyal subscribers who are following along this journey. And yeah, good to be here. I'm feeling knackered, but I'm sure we're going to get into that because it's my turn to be interviewed. But I am looking forward to hearing more about what you've been up to next week.
Totally. And on that note, because there was Easter holiday going on, did you have any Easter eggs or Choco
Sho
bunnies?
Shoko bunnies, they sound amazing. I'm guessing they're chocolate bunnies.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I haven't eaten any. Oh no, I did. I ate some mini eggs. Do you get mini eggs?
Yeah, yeah.
They're really good.
Like
I
those
think
from Cadbury?
yes.
Yeah.
And they're like milk chocolate with a hard shell, kind of like a Smarties, but better.
Mm.
Yeah. I think I had eight of those, and that was all the eggs I've had. But I have got a whole Malteser's egg. Um, and I've got some other little bits that Charlotte's parents gave to us. But yeah, I've been good. My fat macros aren't particularly high, even right now. So I'm trying to hold back on too many eggs. But yeah, went to Charlotte's for Easter. She actually lives, for people who don't know the UK, like quite down south, so in Bude, Cornwall, known for their fish and chips, known for their Cornish pastries. They're amazing, but again, fat macros out the window. And yeah, just spent the weekend down there. Before that, actually heading down to Exeter, which is kind of on the way where my sister lives because I have another niece. So
Hey!
celebrating that birth as well, seeing them briefly. So it was quite a family orientated weekend for myself, but not so much chocolate. Have you been eating chocolate? I bet you have. Have you bought any eggs?
Come on, you're asking the wrong guy for something like that. I'm not eating any treats at all. I mean, I did. If you would say that protein bars would you say that protein bars are a treat or
I think I think they should really be. I mean, if you're eating a grenade carb killer, that's basically as nice as eating a Mars bar, to be
yeah,
fair.
that's true.
It depends,
And
what one did you have?
no, no, I didn't have any
Oh,
protein bars because I'm really committed to my contest prep and I need to stick to the plan because I simply don't want to go off board. Hey, sorry, I don't want to say that you are not sticking to your plan, but you know me and we talked about it in the past
yeah.
already that I need to be someone who needs to be disciplined and strict and rigid to stick to the plan or follow the plan, whereas you can get away with having a treat once in a while still sticking to the plan. And this is the reason why I didn't have any. And further, I stayed at home here. I was all by myself. And yeah, so
Wish you
I,
could
I,
have been
I
with me.
was. Yeah, I was able to actually stick to my diet 100%. And I had the time to actually go for quite a lot of walks. This,
That neat game.
yeah, that neat game. This was everything I did over Easter. But we are not here to talk about me, Steve. So don't put the focus on me. We are here to talk about you because I know the past week when we had AJ over, you had some kind of a boring week. So we didn't actually want to talk about you. No, that's
That's a
not.
good thing. Boring weeks are the ones that you want, really.
Yeah, that's true, but it isn't the entire truth. Um, but there has been a lot of changes here in the past days, um, and you've been struggling a lot. And first and foremost, I would like to actually hear a little bit about your changes. What's actually changed for you, and yeah, how has the last 2 or 3 weeks been for you?
So the last 2 or 3 weeks have flown by. This mesocycle, again, like my last one, has been incredibly productive. I felt so good. I felt like a bit of an athlete, training twice a day, kind of getting my nutritional timing on point, like all my meals, like pretty much to a meal plan in a sense. Like almost every meal apart from maybe dinner with Charlotte has been to like a meal plan. And then the dinner with Charlotte has basically been hashtag massive salad. So anyone following that
Oh yeah.
hashtag, you need to check that out. Um, and yeah, training's been really good, so good almost. My actual weight loss, I haven't even been hardly tracking. Like, I don't know what my week to week average even is. I just know looking in the mirror that I'm getting very close to stage condition. So much so that kind of I never expected to be at this body weight and this lean. It's quite astonishing to me that I may have gained like 5+ pounds of lean muscle tissue because in your off season, when you're gaining, you're fluffy, you can't really see what's going on underneath. And it's only when you really strip it back, even further than like mini cuts, do you see what lean tissue you're really holding on to. So it appears I've just come into my deload. So I missed a few movements out of my final week because of being away on the weekend. I managed to get to a gym over in Bude, like this really small, tiny gym that actually had a squat rack. So I managed to get my squats in, which, oh my gosh, they actually felt really good, but I felt awful. And I managed to, it were PRs. My quads are sore still today, and I squat on Saturday. My quads are still painful. So yeah, I've just finished my mesocycle and now going into a deload. I also entered I didn't deload early, but I kind of took the break of diet early because it just landed easily with the weekend, with being at Charlotte's place. It allowed me to enjoy some like homemade cookies that Charlotte's mum had made, and kind of for social reasons. Although, like, I hate to say I had to eat this food. Like, I didn't have to eat it. I could have been that really rigid person, and I'm sure her parents and Charlotte would forget about it. But to just fit in, it was easier for that time. Stress was lower. And the fact is, and what we're going to come on to is because I am ready so early, I was either thinking I could do a show in a month or so's time, but that doesn't really work out for me in terms of my long-term goals, long-term plans. And the fact is, in the UK, where if you do qualify for becoming pro, which, wow, if I qualify, I'll be absolutely astonished. But if I did, they're all at the end of the year. So it makes sense to kind of compete nearer those rather than compete early, then kind of don't know what you're trying to do in the middle and then try and compete late. So rather than try and push a show early, which isn't really an option, I am taking a break from contest prep in a sense. I think it's not going to be your usual, it's not going to be like off season in any sense of the form, but it's going to be more flexible, it's going to be more relaxed. And I will, for my last mesocycle, before I had a planned break anyway, in which I was going for a primer phase, if anyone's aware of those, or resensitization, maintenance phase, lower volume, kind of maintenance calorie intake. Before that, I'm actually going to go through kind of like a mini mass in a sense. I guess in ways it's mini because it's only going to be 5 weeks. So it's the potential for muscle growth is in 5 weeks. The amount I could grow is not very much. However, I am very lean, which is good. And I potentially could have lost maybe a little bit of lean tissue. I don't think I probably have, but there could be some small amounts of muscle to be gained. And it's going to be mini because I'm not going to be very assertive. I'd probably be more assertive if it wasn't this current situation. Well, I definitely would be. But I'm going to try and keep it so a moderate surplus, potentially max of 300 calories or something like that. So I can limit fat gain, because fat gain, as we know, is inevitable when I'm bulking, and I am still in prep. But I want to grow some muscle. I have the time, most importantly. And this way I drop I drop all the diet fatigue, which I have quite a lot built up. And I think that it will be interesting to see how it goes, because I think I'm definitely leaner than what would be optimal or required to start a lean massing phase. I wouldn't need to get as lean as I am now. I'm probably 6%, 8%.
You're looking insane already.
So
guys, check out his Instagram if you haven't already.
So everything's coming in. The glutes, I mean, my legs are leaner than they've ever been. It's just, I think if there's anywhere I'm holding fat, I've probably got about 5 pounds to lose, which would be on just my rear, on my back.
I just wanted to say that.
Yeah,
No,
it's upper back's come in, but
totally.
lower back, it's almost like it looks like I can't tense it or something because everywhere else is shredded and there's just like flat. And it's like, Steve, are you not tensing your, like, you're not, those spinal erectors, there are muscles there.
But what I've seen in the past days or weeks here is that your shoulders are really popping now and coming
Yeah.
out and getting striated, especially when you're doing your rear double biceps pose.
Yeah, yeah, they're all coming out. So, yeah, in a very good position, really. And I think it. I've spoken to briefly to Mike Israetel about my plans, and
Mm.
actually, it was in my annual plan initially when I spoke to him and Jared Feather, just kind of getting them to shit test me and also passing it by yourself really helped. Because the worry for me is I'm kind of in contest prep mode, and is this going to push me out? And the other worry for me was, am I gonna I don't want to take a prep mindset to an off season. Like I want it to be a psychological break as well,
Mm.
and I don't want to put that on kind of people like Charlotte most of all because I live with her, and I want to be able to in this short massing period kind of give her a little bit of a break. Be like, yeah, we can actually go out and eat. And things like this because I have the macros to spare. I just know in myself I need to be that little bit more kind of tight. So no, I'm excited for it. And I guess if I was to touch on training briefly, basically just the last part of what would be a typical 3-part mesocycle for hypertrophy, in which I'm just topping up volume. So my training program's not going to change much, apart from I'm going to chuck in now a shit ton of pump work. Basically, the kitchen sink of hypertrophy is going to be chucked in there. So I'm going to be smashing metabolic stress, muscle damage, and tension overload. Like they're all going to be in there. Lifting heavy, lifting per pump, everything. So my body is basically going to be as overreached for hypertrophy as it could possibly be. Then I'll go into the primer and hopefully be in a really, really strong position come the second half of the year, in which anyone who is competing at the end of this year in the UK should be worried because I'm coming.
Oh yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. That's the spirit. No, but you touched upon really many points I wanted to dive into. First and foremost, of course, you mentioned that you were worried doing actually or taking that decision of gaining or doing a small gaining phase. What in the end was the main reason for your decision that you actually are doing it now?
So basically, I think I had some things in mind where I was like, okay, if I'm about 5 pounds from stage, that's like I could lose 5 pounds in that in a month
Mm.
if I was to go aggressive. That 5 pounds, that zone, is a really horrible, tortuous place to be. If you can think of kind of like getting to the level of leanness I am now, for me, who is just a leaner person anyway, I don't feel like a train wreck all the time,
Mm.
or I hadn't been. I don't feel the best these last few days, but generally I'd been feeling okay. So when you do dip into those really lean levels, you kind of want to get in and out. You don't want to stay, you can't as well stay in those contest prep lean conditions year round. So even staying how I am now is quite difficult. So the difficulty is going to be really high. So I don't really want to slowly dig my way into there because that's not going to be a sustainable approach. Better would be to kind of attack in. I know 3DMJ have their kind of like their digging phase. So
Mm.
rather than kind of slowly dig a hole where you could even argue like, oh, Steve, you could do like 3-day refeed, 3-day deficit, 3-day refeed, 3-day deficit, and just dig slowly in. I don't think the body will respond so well to that, and I think there's been further evidence to that in that the body doesn't respond so well to really slowly, like it will just adapt, I think. And I could have more productive time actually allowing myself to have a full break and bring calories into a surplus, which is going to reduce diet fatigue completely. You're not going to
Yeah.
have any because the body's like, wow, there's loads of resources available. I don't need to be tired. I can give Steve loads of energy, and then maintain and then dig. I think will be more productive because essentially, yeah, there's like that danger zone. You kind of dip in, dip out, because that zone is where no one wants to be for an extended period of time. So rather than kind of try and edge my way in, I think you're better kind of climbing the cliff, falling off, and then getting back out. I think that's going to be more sustainable and a better approach for me. And then, yeah, the reason for the mass is because I've just got so much time, and I'm leaner than I expected to be at this point.
Yeah, what are you really hoping to get out of that phase? Is it more to get the possibly lost muscle from prolonged dieting back, or is it simply to really reduce your diet fatigue to set yourself up for the next digging phase?
Second, definitely. I don't think I've probably lost any muscle, and if I have, it's very marginal. I feel like my training's been kind of some of the best it's been in a long time, especially because my volume just has massively increased because of the twice daily sessions. So I think the main goal, and that's probably part of the psychological struggle, is going to be I'm just doing this to set myself up for a diet. That's essentially what it will be. I have had thoughts about organizing that en masse to prioritize on weak points. Whether or not I do that, I'm not sure, because I don't think I'm at a level of advancement where I need to necessarily split my volume so I can put more towards some muscle groups and less to others. I think I'm probably, and I'll be open to your opinion, I think I've got an overall fairly well balanced physique with my structure, and I don't think there's anywhere where I have to be like, that's really, really strong, so just maintain it and put loads of kind of volume towards other areas. I guess I could. I mean, traps are probably somewhere I could drop if I was doing any isolation work for my traps, arms, and put it maybe towards my calves. But to an extent, I think I've tried to push calf volume before, and they just my feet end up hurting. The calves don't actually end up getting any better. So I probably won't try and bring up any weak points. And yeah, it would be more about just getting really healthy and looking like jacked.
I mean, I know you've been struggling here the last days, and maybe you can tell the audience a little bit about those past days, what has been a real struggle, and if I know you are that type of guy who can turn that switch and be in a fully different kind of mode. Are you there already because you increased your calories, you decided on gaining now? Are you really committed to actually do it now? To gain some weight, to push it hard again? And yeah, just give us a little bit of insight into your mind now.
So, no, it's a good question. So over the weekend, I woke up on Friday and did kind of my routine from Friday changed. So I was very much in my environment, and I think I spoke about it on Instagram, kind of in my habitat. I was very much like I was thriving. I was doing really, really well with kind of had my nutritional timing down, had my training timing down, knew what meals I was going to have, knew what kept me full and energized. And then that day hit, and it was kind of like, right, I can't do an AM PM session. I have to do it all in one. All my triceps are now fried. I can't do any more tricep like volume on this day. I have to just drop that exercise because I had nothing to give them. And then it was like we're out traveling for 4-5 hours. I have to eat protein bars to get my protein in, but that's going to leave me hungry. All of these things kind of stressing me out slightly, and then at the same time being in the overreaching period of my training program where volume was at its absolute max and pushing very close to failure. I think my body just was like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is when you need the most structure, the most, like, you need to be in your habitat the most because you're fragile right now. And so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and still residues of fatigue today, but mostly on Saturday and Sunday, my brain, I just kind of felt similar to how I felt in hospital, if I'm honest, like towards the end when I was getting better. Just had constant brain fog, felt exhausted. But when I actually got up to do things, like for my workout, and I spoke about this. Me and Charlotte walked to the gym. It was about a 20-minute walk, and she was about to leave me to go back home and kind of chill out with her family. And I like almost, I didn't, but I almost like broke into a small amount of tears because I was just like, I'm so like I was saying bye to her, and I just went over to bend over to like kiss her bye, and I
Mm.
almost fell over because I was just like, what's wrong with me? Like
Yeah.
I shouldn't be feeling this bad. So I didn't think my gym session was going to be good. And Charlotte was like, you shouldn't do this. It's going to be bad for you, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And as you said, I can dig. I was like, I know I can dig. I'm at least going to go in there, put my squat shoes on, and get in that rack and see how things go. So I did. And to my surprise,
Of course.
like the squats went well. I
Mm.
hit PRs. I did more volume. I did more load than before. I was really happy with how that session went, and like mentally, it was such a little win to have got that
Mm.
it made me feel so much better. But still, like the next day is just struggling to almost stay awake, have conversation. My sleep was really poor, very much symptoms of overreaching, but probably the most extreme I've ever experienced before, which I guess it is the most volume I've ever done before at probably kind of one of the leanest I've ever been. So in some ways, it should be expected, especially being out of my environment. And I think I would have really struggled to have fully committed to sticking to my diet over that weekend and having strict structure because relieving that little bit of stress really helped me. And I just took what I could on that weekend because it was really hard. And I think it shows to me that when I do get into those stages, those dark times, and if I have to be on point, I'm going to have to be very selfish and not commit and not do things, which is going to really hurt me. It's going to hurt my relationship short term. But they get hard. Like it's really hard when you're not in your home environment and when you are in a really fatigued state. And then to the second part of the question you asked, am I committed to gaining? It's going to be one that we're going to have to view. And I think it's probably one where I'm going to have to get you to keep me on point.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to not play mind tricks on myself because gaining is always something I've struggled with in terms of just letting myself gain fat. And given how lean I am right now, given the proximity to stage it is, I think that's going to make things harder. But I have written about it in like adiposphobia, the fear of fat. And this is probably the most fearful I could have been at a certain time, but I'm very much committed to at least pushing up calories so I feel like I'm going to focus on making sure I feel fantastic. If I at all feel like I'm dieting when I'm massing, I know I'm doing something wrong. So I just have to make sure that by the end of that mass, like Steve, if you haven't gained a load of weight, that's fine. But if you've got rid of that fatigue that you've been holding on to and you've relaxed psychologically and physiologically, your body feels better, then I think I'll be happy because I know the scale's going to do some rotten things during that time. Like when I'm doing metabolite training, I'm going to have soreness. I'm going to have that acute hypertrophy from all the pump work, and the water's going to be kind of swelling in my cells and things like this. And then more carbohydrates thrown in there. As long as I think that's the time when I'm going to have to really, really focus on the mirror as I have been. This is probably the least I've used the scale ever, because it just hasn't been a reliable predictor of what's going on with my physiology.
Totally. There has been this time frame in which you haven't lost any weight, where this edema was going on. I mean, it was a time frame of about 4 weeks where you haven't lost weight, but significantly got leaner on a visual level.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to gaining, when you're now that lean and you relieve all that kind of stress, I could imagine that it would be a good idea not to even step on the scale for the first 1 or 2 weeks.
At least ignore it. Yeah.
Exactly, because you want to get something out of that phase for the 5 weeks you're in it. And I think it would be a good idea not to step on the scale, to not mess with your mindset and with your head in general, because you are in that contest prep mindset. And when you're then gaining and you see the scale weight going up, I could potentially see that you're then not sticking to the plan as it is fully.
I
But
think That's an interesting strategy, and I wonder that this will tell the viewers a bit about me. The fact you've told me not to step on the scale for those 2 weeks, I've kind of to me, that almost brings on anxiety. It's kind of like not tracking in my fitness pal.
Yeah.
Brings on a little bit of anxiety for me, and I think that almost stresses me out more than actually doing it.
Yeah.
But I can totally see your point, and if I could let go, it probably would really benefit me. I'm not sure I could let go.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Totally get you.
With control, comes stress relief. I forget what the actual quote is, but yeah, with elements of control comes more freedom.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I'm that control freak. I'm making always fun of it, but there's so much truth to it
Yeah.
as well. I need to have control over everything, over my environment. Same goes for you. And I mean, the Easter weekend showed it. I think that maybe you were that fatigued and struggled that hard on that given weekend simply because, as you mentioned, you were not in your usual environment, usual habitat. You couldn't really stick to your daily routine. You didn't have the foods available which you normally eat. Your gym wasn't there. Your sleep was poor, and I think that everything accumulated and created that big ball, which you then were kind of in that big struggle. And it just comes to show that when you're trying to achieve extreme levels, no matter in which sport you're in or on what professional level, if you want to achieve certain goals or extreme goals, the harder you need to work for it and the more disciplined you need to be. And it's sad to some extent, but if you want to be the best, then even your family and your social environment will suffer due to that, because it simply shows that it's not possible to actually get into the really low levels when we are thinking of bodybuilding, when you are staying super flexible. And it just stresses you out way more. And I could even think that the fact that you were actually changing it up stresses you out a little bit more, and played a bigger influence than you might think of in that whole picture of you having brain fog, you being fatigued. I think maybe you were kind of already in that mindset of, okay, now in 2 weeks time I'm increasing my calories to that extent, and maybe you were just waiting and the body wanted to actually get to the point, and due to the fact with all the environment going on, that fatigue simply accumulated, did get a little bit too much for you. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you're right, and people even said it to me. They're like, "How did you stick?" Like it was Easter Sunday. There was so much chocolate available, so much food available. I could have eaten Cornish pasties. I could have eaten fish and chips or whatever. You know you're going to mass in a week's time. How did you stick to just maintenance calories? How did you do that? And it's just like, that is what I do. Like I am a bit robotic like that. And I think, like you said as well, it is a bit sad that you have to go to those extremes. Sometimes it is an extreme sport, and if you want to do well, you have to be a bit extreme, a bit rigid. And there is a kind of balancing act. And actually, one of Mark Newcomb, who many people know, who's one of my clients, talked about it in his update today. He was talking about how he feels like he's on a balance board, and at one side he has like his life, and then the other side is like his nutrition and training goals, and he's like in the middle, and he's trying to like balance these out. And that's what it's like. And at times you have to edge one more way than the other, but you can't go too far, because if you go too far towards kind of your life, you'll lose your nutrition and training goals. If you go too far into your nutrition and training, you won't have a life. Maybe sometimes you dip a bit too far one way or the other, like holidays, contest prep. But yeah, there's always that balancing act. And I think anyone who's listening to this will completely relate. And the key is trying to keep as balanced as possible. And that your environment plays such a big part of that. And it does. And also for me, and if people are like us, I think having a plan. So knowing that I was already actually going to like knowing you're having a diet break at the end of 4 weeks, knowing I had this primer phase coming up, all of those sort of things have really helped me because now I'm like, right, I can envisage how I'm going through this. I know how I'm like stepping through, and I know where I'm going to be in like a number of weeks' time. But you have to keep constantly assessing, keep seeing how things are going, being really true and honest with yourself at the same time.
And I think most of the bodybuilders out there who can push it to those extreme levels, they simply have the ability to push that instant gratification on the back burner and really focus on the long-term goals. And
Yeah.
this will actually lead you to success in the long run. And I think that this, even though you struggled, you made it to the gym. And I think many people who were only there, if they wouldn't have a specific goal, they would have fallen off the wagon on that in that given situation. And I think it simply shows that you are really committed to the process and you simply want to be the very best, as Ash Ketchum once said.
Yes. I love the Pokemon reference.
Yeah.
I wanna be the
The very
very best.
best.
Sorry, you don't want to hear me sing. What was I going to add to that? What I did want to add to that is for the listeners who aren't bodybuilders, they aren't in an extreme sport. Everything might sound a bit strange, or you might not be able to understand or relate to it. And I get a bit frustrated with this with Charlotte sometimes, and I feel bad for it because I feel like saying you don't understand. You've never pushed your body fat levels to a point at which your body wants to just gain fat. Your body is always in a constant state of either being happy where it is or maybe wanting to lose fat. For most, like a lot of people live in that state where losing a bit of body fat, the body's not scared. Gaining a bit of body fat is absolutely fine. Whereas when we're pushing to those lean levels, we've been dieting a long time, our body, it does not want to lose any fat. It will fight tooth and nail. And there's like, you look at the Minnesota starvation study, like Charlotte read through the summary of that and she was like, all of these symptoms sound like you.
Yeah.
Like depressed, low energy, low libido, like food focused, like all of those
All
symptoms
the good
from that
things.
starvation study. And it's like, you're forcibly putting yourself in that situation. So yeah, it is hard to get the general pop, your surrounding people and social environment to understand. And it's just good to be open and as honest with them as possible.
Yeah, on that note though, now that you have been in an family environment over the weekend, over the Easter holidays now, have you experienced support from them or somehow understanding what you're going through? Because they could obviously see what's been going on. It's not just on an minute basis or hour basis, but they watched you the whole day and how you behave and all that kind of stuff. Yeah? So could they actually relate to it a little bit more because they could follow you the whole day?
Interesting. Charlotte's definitely supportive. She is 100% supportive. However, I don't necessarily think it's because she has seen how I've been all day or what I'm doing. I almost feel like without being in my own shoes, you can't. Or this is why I think to take a competitor to the stage, you need to have been there yourself, because I don't think you ever understand it without having done it yourself. It's kind of like my accident. No one's going to know how I really felt unless you had that done or have done something similar to that. Or like Mark Newcomb, again, to bring him up, he survived cancer. He's like, people who are depressed, he's unfortunately got depression and he's open about that. I'm never going to know what true depression feels like. I can see what the person looks like, what they're doing, but I'm always going to be like, why, what's so wrong? Like, just laugh and see some like funny movies. And the same with Charlotte's family, who haven't really seen what I've been doing. They don't really relate to it. They're just like, just eat more. Like, you're skinny, you're feeling run down. Just, why don't you just eat more? And it's like, it's not that simple. It's like, it's not a short-term fix, and it's part of the struggle is to not eat more. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, because I think most people, like, if you haven't been there, I don't think you can relate to it.
Yeah.
I think you need to have gone through it.
And I personally find it really hard in terms of friends and family who who don't have anything to do with the sport itself to really understand it. Because most people, when they care about you, they will always say, Pascal or Steve, you don't need to lose any weight. You're looking
Yeah.
good already. Okay,
You're skinny. You need to build into the
yeah,
show, grow
but
into the show.
you're not looking healthy. Come on, you need to eat something. Okay, but this isn't simply about that. And I think this is already the start where the problem arises, that they don't even know why you're doing it in the first place. They don't even know what bodybuilding actually is. And it's not just about the dieting and stepping on stage and all that kind of stuff, but they don't know the mindset already, and what you need to actually do on a daily basis to achieve those goals, and that it's kind of a 24-hour sport. Because
100%.
and for ages, and it's not just like you can turn off the switch and yeah, expect any progress when you're not in it for on a daily basis, on a minute basis. Hard as it sounds, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be strict or rigid on a daily basis or minute basis, but you need to be in it, and you need to track your progress and have some focus on your progress and training and nutrition all the time. And I think, and I see a problem with it, especially in your social environment, family environment, friend environment, if they don't have anything to relate to, that they don't even know what this sport is about, and then they come up with suggestions like, okay, eat something because you're looking already good.
It's totally like you hit the nail on the head. Bodybuilding is a 24/7 sport. Nutrition plays a huge fundamental role. If you get that wrong, you can't do the sport. Whereas I know you live with a competitive runner, and like he's arguably he's a better runner than than either of us are ever going to be bodybuilders. But
Totally.
is he probably he's not 24 hours thinking about running, or like he doesn't need
No.
precise control over his nutrition in the same way.
And he's
Whereas we do.
just to give an insight, he's actually currently the fourth in Germany, fourth best runner on 800 meters, no, 1,500 meters indoors in Germany. So,
Which is crazy. And you think he's probably more relaxed about going out and
yeah,
like doing these things, because at the end of the day, that's not an extreme sport. When you get into extreme sports, these things like just going out and enjoying a night out with friends when you're dieted down and very lean is almost impossible to do.
just 2 weeks back, he was on a training camp in South Africa for 3 weeks, and all they did was training twice a day, and the rest of the day they went out eating on safari and drank a lot of wine. Yeah, and this isn't something we could do.
No,
I mean,
not conducive to bodybuilding. All the
no.
copious wine and
And it was a training camp to actually make progress and focus on training itself. And I mean, come on,
yeah.
this is like the most intensive mesocycle we are doing, the overreaching week where everything needs to be in check, your recovery needs to be in check, otherwise you're just ending up smashed and wrecked, and try to get the best nutrition in that given week because you're there making the most progress and all that kind of stuff. And they are going out on safari, drinking some wine every single day, and yeah, hitting some twice training sessions, and that's about it. I mean, I don't want to discredit running or any other sport. There's still a lot of effort and work to be done there. But in bodybuilding, to get to the top level, you need to actually get everything on 24 hours, because it comes down to sleep, the stress relief, the nutrition, the training itself, all that kind of stuff.
And this is why just to maybe finish,
Yeah.
this is why I talked about how I wouldn't want to tippy toe into that state of just horrible danger, because everything we're talking about is compounded times a million in this stage. You cannot be social. You cannot be you can't be flexible. You have to be restrictive. You're going to be isolating yourself, because to get to that level of leanness, you have to, because it's a danger zone. You have to be incredibly careful, selfish, look after yourself. And that's why I'm deciding to take a break, come dip in, dip out, because it would not be a sustainable thing.
Man, on that note, I think we are coming up on time. It was awesome to have an insight on your past days and weeks, because I think it was really valuable for the people out there, that you are coming from a phase where everything goes good and goes well into a phase where you're immediately struggling, from one day to another, and you don't even know what's been going on with yourself. And now you decided on changing your tactics, going onto a different route for 5 weeks, to then be able to push for the last weeks leading up to the contest prep. And I think this goes to show that contest prep and training and nutrition is really flexible as well. That you need to make those adjustments along the way to actually step on stage, to bring your best package on stage, and again, to quote Ash Ketchum, to be the very best.
I think we should leave it on that, and it's got to be the episode's got to be called "To Be the Very Best."
Yeah.
Quote Ash Ketchum. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much
Cheers.
for tuning in, and yeah, thanks so much, Pascal, for being a great interview again.
Always a pleasure, man. Cheers.